10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good day, everyone. Hi, it's me, Andrew. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Please, guys, welcome our CEO, Jugas, as well.
Hi there, guys. I see that I'm the only one today down to earth, right? I mean,
We need someone in the MCC.
yeah. Nice to meet you guys.
You've met us before. We work together.
Yeah, but in AMA, if you got it.
I think there was a chance for community to meet Jugas previously when we talked about the economy changes and as well what's going to happen with MCC. So today, yeah, we are bringing one of the features to his baby and our old baby, MCC, and it's long waited functionality. So yeah, we're going to talk about the resources, mining functionality, resources exploring functionality, and as well we try to gather all your feedback and yeah, I hope we will have a discussion about the game functions and mechanics as well. So some of you already pasted questions and gathered by our community managers, but you can always use the chat on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Twitter, and we'll be able to read your messages. So yeah, let's speak about the resources. Or Nick Jugas, would you have something else to mention?
Yeah, I mean, we're really eager about releasing this functionality since we were working on this last 4 or 5 months, I guess. I mean, it brings the real utility to both lands and the vehicles, and it interconnects the both NFT types which we have. So we're really moving the game not only in 3D desktop format, but in the web browser as well, to make it more accessible for everyone everywhere. So yeah, eager to start presenting it.
And there is actually a very good, very short, straightforward community question about this question. So does that mean MCC will be fully launched today?
It is already launched for a while. I mean, we are pushing an updates to a production server for control.mars4.me every couple of days. We are constantly updating it, and people can already try exploring and mining their lands. So the early adopters can be already familiar with it, but we will announce it publicly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, guys, I shared the link to our Mars Control Center. So for those who are not aware, you can simply access and connect your wallet. If you have a land NFT, you can check the stats of your land, and as well interact with vehicle and NFTs by adding and for the exploration. So I made a little agenda for today, just for the sake of clarity. So today we're going to speak about resources exploration and mining on MCC. So Jugas, would you like to do a little bit of video presentation, how it is looking? So we announced that last week. We gathered some of the feedback. So you ready to share the screen?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have a lot of various schemes, flows, descriptions, technical descriptions, and so on. But I don't want to bother our community with those. I mean, let's just dive to an MCC directly, and let's see how it looks like in real life. So that will be much more interesting, I guess. by the way, I will be using our test server just in order to go the full flow much faster, and which will be easier for you to understand, guys. So the only difference will be that the mining times and the exploration times, the task, the job times will be a bit longer in production server. So that's the only difference. So let me share the screen. It's like present, share screen.
And as I understand, well, as I know, but I'm just getting you to repeat for production's sake, all this functionality is live. Anyone can go to the link we've posted in the comment sections already and do this on their own lands with everyone's own vehicles.
Yeah,
that wasn't English, but you get the point.
Yeah, so brief introduction about the whole MCC. I mean, the MCC itself is like a control center of the whole Mars metaverse, which unites the all functions, the all news, the all utilities of all our assets and the whole project. So what users can see there? Users can see their productivity score, which is a result of owning any NFT item of our metaverse. And below it, you can see the community pool, which is being updated on monthly basis. The community pool is like a redistribution pool, which will be redistributed among the players by their productivity score. So the more items you own, the more the more funds you will get as a refund, as a reward for owning those items. Yeah, so people can see owned lands, all lands. I mean, the whole lands in the Mars planet. Your own inventory, the vehicles and the resources at the moment. There is store as well. The new not minted items which you are able to buy. In the production server, we do have just Terrapin yet, but we will be releasing Karkanda very soon. There is leaderboard, which is showing our players by their total asset value. So there are top 100 players, and there is a profile page when user can see how many items it has, account age, the main colonist. We will be releasing the colonist very soon as well, so people will be able to choose whatever colonist they want to pick. Users can already change their username and top up MCC wallet balance. So MCC wallet balance will be used for mining and exploring the resources, because to run the vehicle for a job, the job is whether the mining or exploration. So it will require a fuel, which will cost a bit. It will cost a few dollars each of the tasks, and to fund it, you need to top up your in-game wallet. So you need just to enter a number here or just make a payment to this address. So
I think let's spend a minute talking about the in-game wallet, because this was a really good idea as a system for us to allow for more purchases, transactions, trades, and so forth between players without needing to be incurring gas fees on every single purchase or interaction you do.
Correct? Yeah, I mean, exactly. A lot of projects are bragging that they have everything on chain, but most of them, when there is every action, every step on a game on chain, it becomes very slow. It becomes very slow and causes a lot of gas fees. So it does not benefit any of the parties. So we have decided to have some kind of in-game on MCC ledger when you top up some kind of amount and you are just using it. We still do not have withdraw functionality, but we're planning that in the future. I mean, when you will be getting some kind of Mars$4, you will be able to withdraw it.
To clarify one thing, the distributions that happen from the MCC, that goes directly to your on-chain wallet, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you do that. It's just at the moment, if they put money into their game wallet, they can't withdraw it back out at the moment. But distributions go straight to your on-chain wallet.
Exactly. Yeah, so every owned land has a resource. there are 6 slots for every land, and you can see which resource is discovered and which is not. Let's see this one example. You can find the resources on your own land below, and each land is divided into 6 slots. So there are 6 slots for the resources, which at first all of them are undiscovered. So you need to mount a vehicle on each of the land, on each of the slot, to discover it. And vehicle is discovering the land, and once it will be discovered, you will see the concentration of an item. The concentration is like a multiplier for how many of the material will be extracted each of the time. And let's see how it looks like if I would like to mine an iron.
Jugas,
Yeah.
would you mind going back, because I see you have one mission ended. That's exploration
Yeah.
mission ended, so you can just show how resource.
Yeah. So this, yeah, exactly. This resource is still undiscovered, and yeah, this mission wasn't successful. It's the better the vehicle, the less chance of unsuccessful missions there are. So it happens in the real time as well, in the real life as well. So let's try to discover it again. So each task will have its duration and its success chance. Since it's a legendary vehicle, there is 100% of success. So there is one of the biggest incentives to buy the legendary vehicle. And of course, this task cost me $250 Mars, so it's not that much. Since I have mounted it, it takes almost 2 minutes to discover. Of course, it's a bit faster than in the production server for testing purposes. But in the meantime, let's try to mine some resources. So there is task duration as well as the success chance as well, and
wow, that's
it's
fast.
in progress. Yeah, it is. I mean, users can see we're really showing the whole calculations of how these things working. I mean, we have nothing to hide here. All the algorithms. The people can see the resources list, which are able to be discovered, as well as how it works. I mean, if you have missed this AMA, you can just take a look here and learn how it works. If community will have any more questions, we will be able to fill this description with ease. Yeah. So extracting the resource has been complete, and I just click view result, and I get to 2,000 kilograms of iron, which I'm getting as NFTs in my inventory. So I'm just clicking a claim, and I will see them in my inventory as resources. So yet the only use case of resources at the moment is collecting them, because resource is equivalent for a time and a bit of the money for the land and vehicle owners. But we have not disclosed yet because we're still working on it, but we're already planning the building functionality in order to enhance our landowners build on their lands using the resources, as well as merging the resources with the 3D game. Yet resources in an MCC and 3D game are separate ones, because we do not have multiplayer functionality. But we are really looking forward to merge them and to be able to use them in both MCC and in a 3D game. So in the near future, you will be able to run around in the real Mars, mining the resources, hitting the rocks, and using those resources not only for buildings in 3D game in your PC, but as well in MCC, developing your land and getting more yield. So
let's discuss that for a moment. I think there's a lot of questions, and
Yeah, I thought
there's a lot we can discuss on that topic. And
yeah, sorry,
the
I'm just
reason why
yeah.
the reason why we've gone with this kind of split development perspective, you could even say, of 3D game and the MCC is as a strategy to get to a functioning, persistent play-to-earn game as soon as possible. If we try and build everything at once, then we only reach that goal once everything completes. So what we've done is we've split gameplay mechanics, the player's experience, the fun side of the game, if you will, into 3D game development, and the persistent side of expanding your empire, mining resources, constructing, growing, like all long-term goals. You can even look at it like that. Short-term goals is focused in 3D game, long-term goals focused on the MCC. And then over time, these two projects are building together, getting more and more interlinks between each other, and eventually they'll both become one, where the MCC is just a very streamlined representation of what's going on in the 3D game for people who want to be able to access it on the go and interact at a faster pace. So at the moment, resources, for example, are separated because as I've discussed before, the resources that you mine currently in the 3D game are not persistent. There will be resets in the game. We're testing out balancing mechanics and so forth. Whereas the resources that you mine on the MCC will be persistent. A kilogram of iron that you mine right now on the MCC, and for the lifetime of the project, will always exist. There isn't going to be a reset that is now live, and that persistent progression has begun. So that's why, the rest.
Yeah, I just want to compliment Nick that we are really seeking the roadmap which we have published, and we do not trying to do everything at once, since we're really putting effort to fulfill the single player functionality and making the game fun to play. So that's our biggest priority at the moment, which we're seeking to fulfill.
Guys, I think there's a good place to stop as well and answer that question, because in the past couple of weeks, again, there have been follow-ups from the community with our roadmap. And can we provide a little bit more details about the single player game release? At least the definition to understand for the audience, for the community.
So the definition, at least the definition that I have been using of single player game release is, as anyone who's played the game currently knows, there is a series of systems, airtight systems, resource processing, and so forth. But we're missing a lot of systems. A lot of systems are still not developed yet, such as growing, power generation, life support, cooking, eating. There is still a lot of those systems. And what I call the completed single player game, or the single player release, is when all of those systems have been implemented into the single player game. And at that point, we should have a solid foundation of what is the full range of experiences that a player will have in the Mars4 game. We'll be able to balance those easily, because the thing is, as soon as we connect those to a persistent system, such as the MCC, then any decisions we make are permanent. For a good example of this, right now in the 3D game, you mine resources very quickly. I'm sure you guys have noticed this, that the main limiting factor in mining resources is just how many tons of iron can you carry on your character. It's not the actual, like, how hard it is to find, or the scanning for resources and exploring and so forth. That's because in this current iteration, we're focusing more on balancing and playtesting the building systems. To do that, we make gathering resources much easier. If we connected that to the MCC directly, the whole resource economy for the game would be permanently screwed. So that's part of the reason why we're also maintaining this separation, so we can evolve and playtest the environments without damaging persistency and future economics.
Right. So Nick, to put it in summary, so basically, single player game means that the player will be able to start and do the survival mission, and all the needed elements will be in there.
Yes, the single player game is the current experience we have, but with the additional survival systems that are lacking.
Okay.
And we'll be launching a lot more of those systems this month. We have a huge game patch coming as well, but we'll discuss that in another AMA.
Yeah, cool. So let's get back to resources.
Yes, so the only thing which was not mentioned is discovering the land. And once you will discover the land,
The slot.
the slot, yeah, it will define itself the concentration, because it is random, but the concentration depends on the rarity of the
resource.
Of the resources. Yeah, right. So,
and also you to figure out what you're discovering, what resources are there on the land. And I think there's one thing I'd like to touch on. Although in the MCC, you're only discovering 6 resources per land, as anyone who's played the 3D game knows, there isn't just 6 resources. The idea of the MCC's implementation of mining and how that will carry over to the full game is the 6 resources discovered on the MCC are the 6 most easily accessible resources on your land. Because the goal of the MCC is to complement the 3D game, but not to fully replace it. So exactly. By limiting the mining on the MCC of a land to only the 6 most easily accessible resources, that way there is still a job and a motivation for miners who want to play the 3D game and physically do the mining. They can find the full range of resources that are actually available on the land. So, for example, this land that Judas has mined, almost all the resources are fairly common. But if you entered the 3D game and explored this land, you'd be able to find titanium and aluminiums and golds and many other types of resources that you couldn't access from the MCC. And that's also the motivation of hiring players to mine lands and so forth, to get access to that far broader range of resources.
I can just agree with Ella Plan, who commented good explanation. So
I also...
Oh, yeah. No, Nick, sorry.
Do you have more to this presentation, or can we discuss the Terrapin? Because
let's go to Terrapin, since I
would
found
say just
even
the fact
more
that you
interesting.
write, yeah, but also the fact that Judas right there just mixed up the word slot and land discovery points out exactly what happened with the Terrapin, and I would like to discuss that a bit, as some of the community who have already bought Terrapins and went exploring with them have noticed when on the Terrapin's launch page, when we launched it, it gave Mars4 dollar costs and exploration times base, and those times should have been per slot. And remember, if we go back to the way a land looks, each land has 6 slots. But somewhere it got lost in translation. Instead of per slot, it said per land. And with everything going on, we didn't notice it at the time, and that's on us. But what that meant is that the balancing metrics that we came up with for the Terrapin and that we launched in the MCC were effectively 6 times slower and 6 times more expensive than what people understood from the marketing materials. So this was raised to us a few days ago by the community, and we've been discussing how best to deal with it. And the conclusion we've come up with is we will we'll change the Terrapin's stats that are currently on the MCC to the ones that were included in the original promotional material. And we will be renaming it from the Terrapin GPRV to the Terrapin GT. And we will be discontinuing it at some point very soon. The idea being that the people who bought under the understanding of those stats, although it was a mistake, we will live up to that, because at the end of the day, it was, in a sense, a promise we made to you about how the vehicle functions. So morally, we have to live up to that. Well, we don't have to. Projects haven't lived up to that in the past, but we want to live up to that. And what we're going to be doing is, as I said, we will be discontinuing this Terrapin, and we will relaunch the Terrapin again at some time in the future with the corrected stats. What this also means is that the people who bought this Terrapin will have a far better Terrapin than most other people. Well, than all other people, because this Terrapin is ridiculously better than it should have been. But I spent the weekend going over the balancing calculations, and although this does, technically, economically speaking, although it does reduce a bit the rate of Mars4 burn in exploration, and it also speeds up the intended exploration rates, I don't think it will have a major effect on the economic simulation as a whole. I know it won't, because we went there and I did all the numbers, and at the end of the day, it does give a bit of an unfair advantage in time to the current players who own this. However, it doesn't unbalance the economy very much, as the biggest change is really just in how fast the Terrapin can explore. As the Mars4 costs for the Terrapin, interestingly enough, were also wrong. The Classic originally was meant to not cost 12,000 Mars4 to explore a slot. It was meant to be around 3,000 or 4,000, and so
it's GT version, you know.
Yeah. So changing it to what was originally promised actually doesn't change the economics too much, but it just does change the time significantly, which is why we will be discontinuing it. For anyone who owns a Terrapin and you haven't set it to explore yet, if you go now to set it to explore, you'll see that it does have the proper exploration time and exploration cost. Well, proper. The one that was included in the original marketing material has been changed to that. For those who already set your vehicle to explore, you'll notice you can't cancel it, because we didn't foresee why people would want to cancel it until now. Unfortunately, because they were already sent on a mission, the time of how long the mission would take is calculated at the beginning. So that those people will still see it super long. However, we will be refunding you the Mars4 used to send them on that mission. So effectively, your first exploration is slow but free. So basically, instead of hiring professionals, you asked your neighbors to help you move. And you regretted it because it took longer, but at least it was free.
Yeah, and that's a good example why we share some releases with community a bit earlier.
Yeah.
So,
and that is exactly why we do this. And we're grateful to the community for giving us the feedback, discussing it with us, and having the patience to know that everyone can make mistakes. We're all human. But as I said, the moment I saw this discussion happening, we will make it right. I'm not sure how just yet, but we always will, because that's what we're here for. We're here to build a long-term project.
let me quickly go through this, because there are some related questions popping up. So this is updated comparison table. So there are a couple things. We basically aligned the glossary. So vehicle has mining endurance, exploration duration, cost per job. That is the cost per exploring the sector, the slot.
Or mining.
Yeah.
There's I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
Yeah. And what is sort of average mine amount? So these stats, exploration duration and cost per job, they were adapted to the original promise. So now for Classic, it's 84 hours, because as we discussed initially, that was 21 days per land. And and you're gonna explore a little bit faster.
I think let me take a moment to explain each of these stats a bit more, because I saw some conversations in the community that didn't grasp some elements of it. So first of all, vehicles in the MCC are sent on jobs. The reason we call them jobs is because soon you'll be able to hire out other vehicles to do them. So in mining and exploration are two jobs you can do. To send a vehicle on the job, depending on the vehicle, there's an operation cost. This cost is dependent on rarity of the vehicle, how long the job is, and general vehicle statistics. For example, those of you who have followed the lore of the vehicles, you can assume that the Click Beetle's job cost is probably really low, but it's probably not going to like be able to carry much resources and so forth, because each vehicle we launch is, at least in this first set of 4, is specialized very much on a task. Average amount mined is the best way that I could compile a lot of different data into a single number. Because if we look at average amount mined, this is for the Terrapin, right? The Terrapin GT.
This is for Terrapin.
So the average amount mined, it looks like the legendary will mine 54 times more, but you must keep in mind the legendary is running for 24 hours versus 3 hours. So the average amount mined, we should probably rename that to per job, not just average amount mined, because it is a bit misleading. If you look at the average amount mined per hour, for example, it breaks down a bit differently and it's a lot closer together. Because what this is doing is it's adding together how much you mine per hour, and the legendary does mine a bit more per hour. And then it's also adding the fact that the legendary runs longer. So like it's two things multiplying on top of each other that gives it such a high rate. Second thing I want to discuss is I've seen people looking at the Terrapin's mining statistics and using that to try and extrapolate how the mining economy will work. That is a very bad example of it, because this is a vehicle specifically designed for exploration. It is very good at it, and it is very bad at mining. Yes, the legendary can mine like what may seem like a lot, but anyone who's actually played the game, even at our current mining rates, will know that, what was it, 24 hours, like in 1 hour of mining, a player running around can get that many kilograms of a resource. So this is not a good metric to use, as it's very you're measuring how well a drill can hammer in a nail. Like it's just not good at that, and it's very inefficient at it in general.
But for this reason, we're working on some more comparison tables, so you will be able to see the stats for Terrapin and Karkanda. Yes. And there you will be able to compare the differences and understand why Karkanda is meant for the transportation.
And that also comes to our point of why we didn't prioritize showing all of the mining stats for the Terrapin, because that's not what its intended use is. However, I believe there's a question that someone asked that I'll just answer now. Obviously, as we're moving forwards and before the Karkanda launches, which is one of the first mining specialized vehicles, all of those stats will be put out publicly, and we'll be discussing it all. That's not an issue. We didn't prioritize that, as we felt with the Terrapin, it's detracting from what its purpose is. The real value metric of the Terrapin is how long it takes to explore lands, the cost for exploring lands, the success rates for that, etc. That's why we focused on just showing those, as the others shouldn't be considered in the value statement, really, because they're not worth it.
Perfect. So, any more urgent questions? Muskan, when launch single player game? So the single player of which Nick was telling. So can we update the?
I believe the original timetable we had for a launch on that was in Q1 or 2 of next year. I believe we'll be ahead on that. I don't have an exact date yet. I would say the more realistic question is when the community says it's done. Because at the end of the day, when is it done is when the community plays all the systems and features that we have and says like, yeah, I could have fun playing this every day for 6 months. When we reach that point, that's when we know, okay, this is it. We can now put this inside of a concrete box and, well, not like a resin box. We can cure it in amber and connect it all up and put it live and start having like connect it to the MCC and make it fully play to earn.
I mean,
good.
Yeah. I mean, worth mentioning that we are releasing the updates every 2 weeks, right? I mean, something like that.
It slowed down for the past month and a half because we upgraded to Unreal 5 and like did so much shit. So they're gonna get like a giant.
So the game is being constantly being developed. So it's not about that you need to wait some kind of data release. I mean,
you can play it right now.
It's evolving. Yeah, week by week.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I may have misunderstood the question for that sake. Like the game is evolving day by day. There is a single player game that you can play right now, but I wouldn't call it done yet. And when we call it done is not us setting a date. It's more the community all coming to agreement that yes, this feature set is enough. It's good.
Yeah, and actually,
we really welcome any comments and any feedback on our 3D game. So guys, if you're eager to try it out, I mean, I see questions of Muskan asking when launched single player game, so we can try it right now, and we are ready to hear your feedback.
And actually, there is one related topic. So we talked about the resources, and I see questions as well popping. So you explore the land, you mine resources. We talked briefly about the capability in the future to upgrade the land. But I believe for some of the people, it's also important how they will trade those resources, as it was discussed in the beginning. So when marketplace for resources, and thanks for the compliment, Delina. That's my beautiful necklace from Martian Rocks. When marketplace for resources, Jugas, do you have?
Yeah, so we are looking forward to this functionality for a while. I mean, for half of the past 6 months or something, we're discussing a lot and researching about how other marketplaces are working and how ours should work, and should it be marketplace of the resources or of the lands or of the vehicles. And we made a decision to first implement and launch the job marketplace of vehicles, which is already working and in the test server, and it will be launched in the 2 weeks, something like that. So you will be able to rent your vehicle to other people and earn money from owning your NFT asset, or if you don't have your vehicle, to rent it from someone else. So we've been working on this functionality, so it's a marketplace as well. Regarding the resources marketplace, I mean, it's not very smart to build a marketplace since there is no exact and solid
we haven't launched yet the utility
of the resources. Yeah, so once it will be fulfilled, so we are looking forward to launching it.
Launching the resource marketplace, which is planned, I believe. The plan is that we want to institute development on land and being able to use your resources in the MCC to begin persistent building and upgrading of your land, which when the 3D game, which will also affect your 3D game progression. So that functionality we want to get live on the MCC before we institute a resource marketplace. But as Judah said, renting out of vehicles to other players will be in very soon. That's the next up on the MCC launch schedule. And that technically is the first moment where we will have the full play turn mechanics. Yeah. At that moment, you will be able to begin making a profit from your vehicles by renting them to other users who do not have, for example, someone who wants to explore their land, but they don't have a vehicle, or now they would much rather rent a Terrapin GT, which is a lot faster.
Yeah, indeed.
They can now just rent those from other players, paying those players for their services, and getting their lands explored.
So it's interesting. We started this further in plans discussion from the bottom. So, guys, you had implement an NFT renting system or taking jobs assignments. So it's on the way. You guys promise. Yeah, and Nick's promise is a fully functioning single player. And Andrew's promise is not to screw up marketing materials once again.
Well, technically, they have to thank you for that. Your promise to us is to not screw it up again.
No, that's a problem sometimes with marketing. That yeah, we like to promise a lot, and then we have to deliver. Yeah. So it's good. It's good for the end user. So I see one more line. We would like to briefly mention about Colonist NFTs. So Colonist NFTs. So next week, yeah, we have a Karkanda mining and transportation launch for landowners. So stay tuned. There will be more details about this. And then there is in plan as well. We've been listening to your discussions, like community discussions, and we expect to launch Colonist NFTs this year as well. So can we say in one sentence what is Colonist NFT, Nick? Like in the game?
So in the 3D game, the Colonist NFT in the beginning will include different sets of equipment for players, and this is also a new system we'll be adding. So you'll get a different set of helmet, chest plate, pants, boots, gloves, which have different statistical effects. I believe the first Colonist will be a miner, so it'll come with a suit that will, a variety of suits and equipment that will assist in mining. That's what will be functional right away in the 3D game. In the MCC, Colonists will function similar to vehicles, but on a far smaller scale. So in the same way you have jobs available to vehicles, you'll have jobs available to Colonists. So you can send a Colonist out to mine or explore a land, but obviously they will be far less effective than like on foot than in a vehicle. And then the third thing is the Colonists are the container of all experience that they gain throughout their lifespan. So from the moment a Colonist is minted, they begin gaining experience in real world time, living on Mars. And that experience they can use to unlock different skills, to specialize in specific professions, etc. So this is very similar to how most RPG games work. You have skill trees and stuff you unlock, but we'll be going with a persistent experience gain system similar to EVE Online. Part of the reason we've taken inspiration from that is because it's such a good economic simulator, and their Captain XP system, I believe, is a big part of that. So even if you're not playing the 3D game, or if you just have your Colonists working in the MCC, they're still gaining experience. What this also means, which is kind of interesting mechanically and lore-wise, is that the first Colonists minted inherently will be the highest level ones because they are the first boots to land on Mars, and they will begin getting better at being Martians the earliest.
So, Nick, do I read it correctly? Like, if I buy the Colonist, the classic Colonist NFT, let's call it like this, users, it will be easier to understand. And let's say after half a year, if someone buys a classic, meanwhile, my Colonist has progressed to, let's call it epic level. It doesn't matter if I work on MCC with the Colonist NFT or in-game.
Correct. And the best way to look at it is, let's say, like a Colonist for this conversation gains 1 level per week of lifetime. When we first launch Colonists, we will include rarities, but what those rarities are include different kinds of equipment, and they will start at a bit higher level. Thematically, the idea these are Colonists that have are experienced miners, and they've already worked on the moon, and now they're getting shipped to Mars. So let's say that the moment you purchase a classic colonist, they start at level 0, and a legendary one starts at level 20. That means that if you buy a classic colonist on day 1 and by 20 weeks later, someone else buys a legendary one, your 20 weeks later, in this example, like that's not actually how fast progression works, but those 2 colonists would have the same amount of experience. The difference being in that case that the legendary would come with some more specialized equipment, but that equipment will be tradable on marketplaces. So a classic colonist bought 20 days earlier, and then with a bit of Mars4 investment to buy some better equipment for it, would be equivalent to a legendary colonist bought at that very moment, which is intentional because we want to promote people purchasing colonists, building up their experience, building up their skill trees to be specialized in things, equipping them with equipment that supports in that specialization, and then putting them up on the market as an asset that they have developed to sell. This is very similar to what you see in all massively multiplayer online games, but normally it's something that the developers frown on. You'll have some illegal or banned communities that will play World of Warcraft, get a character up to level 80, and then sell it on a marketplace to someone else who wants to play the game starting from level 80 and doesn't want to do the grind, or gold resellers, stuff like that. Basically, we're taking those systems that help those games survive, and instead of like being against them, incorporating it into the foundations of how our play-to-earn economy works.
Yeah, thanks for this detailed description. Fuzzy already commented that great idea with the colonist. And actually, we have another kind of sneak peek what we are aiming to do with the colonist NFT. We're playing around with avatars. So again, stay tuned. There will be some announcements, and you will be able to see how they look like. I have one related question related to the topic, and it's most probably for the marketing guys. So listening to all these discussions, some people are raising the question: you're still focusing on selling NFTs. And yes, in this response, yes, that's the job for the marketing. And Nick, what you mentioned before is like a lot of people, they do not see behind the scenes part, and again, that's why we have AMAs like this. That's why we have discussions with you on Discord, so we can.
It's what you said before about people not seeing behind the scenes, I think is a very important thing to note, because especially when we do an AMA, or when I do an AMA, they see one person. When you do an AMA, they see one person. Yeah. You speak to the community more often, and your team speaks to the community way more often. My entire team, no one has spoken to the community.
George.
Because they're all busy. George does, yeah. But there's like another 10 people. Spiros did one AMA. But there's a good example. Spiros, who's been on this project now for 9 months or so, like working 6 days a week, 20 hours a day. You guys, like 3 hours of his time in all those 9 months went to interacting with the community. And there is a lot more of my team like that, just because inherently they're developing, they're making stuff. So what the public sees is naturally what marketing is doing. And well, marketing's job is to market products. So if you saw all of our developers every day showing off all the development they were doing, it means they'd be doing way less development.
Yeah, true. Good. Shall we move a bit further?
Yeah.
Can we tell about what's coming next week? I really love this picture. I mean, every time we look at this banner.
The thing on which we have worked decent number of hours. I mean, this 3D model, right, Nick?
The we'll need to do an AMA just like with Spiros, just about the development of this goddamn model. Like it's hilarious. No, it's true. This vehicle started out with my first few days here. We started designing this series. Anders Zach was the one who did the very first concept of this vehicle. It was like one of the first paintings he ever did for the project. And it has gone through so many iterations, so many, like it's.
I mean, I'm not a developer myself, but once the Spiros is sharing the 3D models with me, the level of details. I mean, I'm the big fan of the top shooter games and so on, the latest ones. But the level of details of this model, I mean, it's surprisingly well done. I mean, in my opinion. So I think that the community will appreciate it.
Wait till you see it drive and stuff. Earlier on today, I was working on the gear ratios and stuff like that of how it drives in game, and it's so cool to see something that weighs over 20 tons just like climbing over rocks and stuff with just inhuman levels of horsepower. Like comparing this, if you want to compare it to like realistic stuff, is basically someone took a warship with a fucking warship engine, like a 60-liter diesel engine, and put wheels on it and made it fucking climb mountains. It is so fucking cool to drive. I had way too much fun with it.
Nick, so have you calculated how many hours you have been working since start on this?
In total on the project? Or just on the vehicle? This vehicle. This vehicle's been a lot.
No, Face Corsair, I just added his question in front of me, testing this functionality. So how many hours you guys been working since start?
I have no idea. Lots. All of the hours. A little bit of hours for sleeping, a little bit of hours for drinking, a lot of hours for game development.
Yeah, Alexei is asking about price for Karkanda. It's the classic will be a little bit more expensive than Terrapin. That's what I can say at this stage. I think we will be doing some discussions with the community later on.
Yep.
Good. Nick, anything more about Karkanda? So
I have a lot more to talk about it, but I think we should probably save that for gameplay.
Let's do the next AMA. Yeah, let's do the next AMA about Karkanda. So you have a patch update about that. Guys, you heard Unreal 5 is coming. And we talked about the comparison for the Terrapin Classic and removing basically this upgraded Terrapin GT. So thanks to good. Shall we go to community questions? We usually burn 1 hour discussing that. And yes, please update the roadmap as of current situation. Muskan, thanks for the note. I'll just double check. Depends which version you might be looking at, but yeah, I'll check with the team so it will be updated. Thanks for pointing this out. I'm starting from the chat, guys, and so let's read some a few questions. I'll try to group them, and there are quite a few about the token utility. So what about token utility? Can we use Mars4 tokens to buy and sell resources in the marketplace? This is all about the token utility. And Patrice Jumel is asking, will Windle Land and Vehicle NFT be set to a reasonable amount of Mars4? And he also asked about the fixed price for, in Mars4 tokens per job on exploring the land and mining the land. I basically can answer those straight away. So you heard about the marketplace, and I'll repeat myself that we plan to use the only currency for in-game economy. So it's Mars4 dollar, And talking about the mining costs and the exploring costs, they are fixed in Mars for dollars, and they are not set and carved in stone, because we've been discussing with the community previously. We will be balancing these according to the market value of the token as well.
Okay.
So we're still in early stages. We're still doing upgrades. We're still fine-tuning things. So yeah, more of your comments will help with that. Have you chosen, Nick, Džiugas, your favorite?
I'm still skimming the questions. Most of them you're just catching straight away. The tour of the office, I mean, that's an interesting one. It should be mentioned before the Halloween, but right now it would not be that interesting though, but maybe someday.
There was a comment here. I don't know, I guess we tried to answer that a simple play to earn game, simple play to earn functionality would be in the MCC. That initial functionality is coming right now with the renting of vehicles, which is just in QA testing, I believe. So you should have that sometime soon, this month. Just to reaffirm, someone did mention near the beginning, what are the chances of a single player 3D game launched this quarter? I think it's important to say that there is a 3D game you can play right now, and there has been for many months, and every month, every few weeks, more functionality is added to that game. When it's launched is when we say, like us and the community say, it's good enough to be launched. So when that decision is made, I'm not sure, that's up to a lot of people, including most of the community, but there is something to play right now. Like, it is out, it is public, it is live. Just launched if you mean launched, when can we use it? Right now. If you mean launched, when is it done, and we move on to other tasks, then that's a question for the community as a whole.
Yes, and we have gathered some of the questions before the AMA, so maybe we should go through them.
Let's look through those. I believe some of them have already been answered.
Yeah, I'm just looking at them.
Will we be able still to mine without using MCC and vehicles, like the old-fashioned way with the pickaxe in our hand? So yes.
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 There's an important thing to say there. As the MCC and 3D game are gaining functionality independently, this new functionality in the MCC is not limiting anything in the 3D game. So you still have all that other functionality there.
And I think there are two related questions to Džiugas. How to use our Mars4 tokens on BSC in MCC, and will MCC ever support BSC, Binance Smart Chain?
Yeah, so we have a bridge to BSC, so people are able to exchange them more easily to Mars4 tokens. Worth mentioning that both lands and the vehicle and the Colonist NFTs and all NFTs which we will offering ahead are able to be bought using Ethereum tokens.
Okay. Just trying to skim through.
Someone else asked a similar question to the mining one. Can vehicles be used in a 3D game and MCC simultaneously? Yes, they can. As I said, this functionality MCC does not limit the 3D game in any way at this point. Now we are working on exploration in the MCC. I saw afterwards there'll be mining. Will there be a recovery time for resources in the sector? Will the same resources be restored there, or will I need to explore again? No, you only need to explore a slot once. Once the resources are discovered in the slot, then you can continually mine that same slot. You don't need to explore it again.
We answered
this has been answered. Can we use Mars4 token as the game currency in single player game, Nick? Can we?
We could, but right now the goal is to be testing mechanics and so forth. And if we make people pay real world money for those testing and experiment, and then we can't change it as easily, or when we do, people will be unhappy about it.
Yeah,
That's why at the moment we're not.
So.
Yeah, we're not limiting that. We're not like that. That would be a stupid cash grab to try and get people to be paying Mars $4 for the 3D game right now. So we let you play it with no need to pay Mars $4 for it. Just play the game, enjoy it, and give us feedback. And when we reach the final version of the game, of the core single player functionality, then we will tie it into the MCC, and then there will be more purchasing and so forth.
So
yes,
play for free.
Play for fun.
Play for free, play for fun, gather resources, and gain experience with Colonist NFT.
Yeah, and Max Cooper is asking, will there be a table provided on the cost and amount of resources extraction for Karkanda before the start of sales?
Yes. Yes, there will.
Yes,
there will be some places where we will speak about that, and I think the primary place will be landowners channel.
We'll speak about it there, but also before the moment that the Karkanda does go up for sale, that there will be clear access, even just from that store page, to a detailed breakdown of all metrics. As I said, this wasn't a priority for the Terrapin because the Terrapin is not intended for use. It's not intended for mining, and it's not good at it at all. So we didn't want that to be affecting the decision prices. Otherwise, people may be disappointed after they see the way everything else mines.
Yeah,
yes,
and
for those who want to follow on Karkanda updates and news, here's the link. Yeah, we are building whitelist as well for the upcoming Karkanda NFT launch, so you will be able to use that.
Yeah, and one more long question from Max Cooper as well regarding the resources. Tell us what motivated you when you made up the characteristics and the costs of Brave for Terrapin. It's a tough question, though. I mean, there's a
lot of elements to it. As I said, the Terrapin is primarily a exploration vehicle, so that's why when it comes to its mining functionality and the costs of operation for mining, that is not where it's intended to be used. It includes that functionality because well, everything should be able to do everything. That's kind of our core game design philosophy, but it shouldn't be implemented in that sense. When it comes to the job cost for vehicle, it was a decision we made for simplicity's sake, of like simplicity and user communication sake, that there's one job cost that applies to both exploration and mining. And because the Terrapin is very good at exploration and very bad at mining, it means the job cost, the Mars $4 cost for resources extracted with the Terrapin is excessively bad. And then there's also other elements. For example, when you go through the stats, you'll notice, for example, that the legendary Terrapin, when mining, is even less efficient if you consider, although it's very good Mars $4 for its initial price, you'd be better off buying a lot more classics. And that's true. But keep in mind that there is other balancing elements there. For example, to be mining 24/7 with a Terrapin means you need to wake up every 3 hours to set it to mine. So there is some premium put on the fact that the legendary can run for longer. Once again, though, this is not a mining vehicle. Like the Karkanda, even the classic version, runs for way longer than 3 hours. But just talking to the points that we have in front of us, there are those elements. And then the third element is productivity score. The legendary vehicle includes a far higher productivity score multiplier, which affects the portion of the community pool that the owner is getting with it. So that's convenient. I guess it's time for someone else to answer questions.
Drilling on Mars.
Not for your office neighbors, right?
No.
Yeah, it was a great ME, right? I mean,
no, we still have. When will the community pool data will be clearly displayed, and when will there be possibility of voting for the withdrawal of the pool?
So community data is being updated on a monthly basis. So today, to be exact, today we have recalculated the community pool according to the last sales, and we will be automating this process. So the community pool will be updated every hour, or something. About the distribution, we're still considering when to do the voting, the governance voting, which part to distribute, and yeah, I mean, we're growing the pot.
Yeah, and I think we managed to clear all of them. Yeah, I don't see any. Yeah, so for Max, who was worried about the long exploration hours, so I bet we clarified that this has changed since today. So if you go in there, you have exploration times what was promised in there.
And if you already set your vehicle to explore, unfortunately, it's still using the old hours. However, for those people, we will be refunding your Mars $4. So you're not paying for this first exploration. Takes a bit longer, but you'll get it for free.
Yeah. I'm trying actually to understand, like, when you land in vehicle NFT be set to a reasonable amount of Mars 4, the NFTs allow you to play and have fun, but you can do that with a $30 PlayStation game such as Deliver.
And it's important that we don't require people to own land or vehicles to play the game at the moment. You can play them without.
Exactly.
So the land and vehicles are the land especially is much more of an investment. It is not a prerequisite required to play. And for vehicles, they are also not prerequisites. You can play without them, but they are a mix of expanding your in-game functionality and a investment together.
Brilliant. So I think we covered all of that. Brilliant, AMA. Thanks, guys. Let me check for the last. No more question. Nope. Some people are laughing at Nick's drilling. So happens, guys. Yeah. So thanks a lot, everyone. If you have any more questions, you know where to find us on Discord, on Telegram.
And we'll have a gameplay AMA pretty soon, showing off the Karkanda in game. And
yeah, it's amazing. I mean,
it's gonna be a massive update because you already mentioned that there's we're moving to Unreal 5, and there will be a way better performance improvement and all these.
Yeah, the performance of the game has gone up by like 200%. The size of the patches you guys need to download now is like 10% as big. We've done a hell of a lot of optimization on size, so updating, downloading the game for the first time, like all of that should be way faster. And we've also added in electrical grids and water harvesting and just
yeah. So it all be in
all the stuff.
But I can't believe it's like a crypto winter. Everyone is talking, everything is going down, and suddenly Nick comes with the news. It's like 300%.
The bear market is the builder's market, so
300% increase. Good. Thanks, guys. So see you later. Speak to you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, guys. Cheers.
Bye-bye.